Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another probably half-assed league video about Jayce, the discount Darius. Okay, not really, but you get it. When you have a dunk on a 5-second cooldown, that's an obvious joke. But honestly now, Jayce, the defender of tomorrow.
I fight for a brighter tomorrow.
Jayce as a champion is a bit unique in the sense that he is melee and range at the same time, so any discussion about him must start from his ultimate, Transform. It functions simply in the way that it swaps his forms from the Mercury Hammer, which is his melee form, to the Mercury Cannon, his ranged form, and vice versa. Also, his first auto attack in each form has an extra effect, his cannon shredding resistances by up to 25% based on level, and his hammer dealing bonus magic damage, with a persistent armor and magic resist bonus. Next, his passive simply gives him a burst of movement speed when he swaps stances and allows him to walk through units. You usually won't notice the effects of this unless you are actively swapping stances to run away from somebody or to chase somebody. Now, considering he has two different stances and unique abilities in each form, I will start by going through his cannon form first. First up, his Q in cannon form is Shock Blast, a simple skill shot orb of electricity that explodes at the end of its path or when it hits the first enemy, dealing decent AoE damage in a small area. It also synergizes highly with his E ability, but we will get to that later. His next ability is Hypercharge, a fitting name considering the only thing it does, it gives you 3 charged auto attacks with 2.5 attack speed that deal reduced damage at early levels, starting at about 70% of his damage and at max rank dealing 102%. Oh, and did I mention it resets your auto attack timer, which is bullshit late game, but early you probably won't be leveling it and it's really underwhelming. So the only time you will use it is probably when you mistime a CS and use the reset to get it. Or when you can't get your Thunderlord's proc off and you use it to get 3 fast auto attacks on your lane opponent. Okay, next, his E is called Acceleration Gate, a line barrier type of thing that gives all allies who walk through it a burst of speed. That sounds pretty underwhelming, but honestly you will never use it for this movement speed boost. Remember earlier when I mentioned that it synergizes with your Q? Yeah, well, if you fire your Q through the gate, it becomes the scariest skill shot in the game probably. Because your Q by itself has decent damage and AoE, but when it's accelerated, it gets sped up by 30%, and its range, damage, and area of effect get increased by 40%. That's retarded, and it really is. If you get even a bit ahead and get, for instance, a fast Ghost Blade and a BF sword, this combo will take 70% of a Squish's life in a decently sized AoE. But I'm getting ahead of myself here. We'll get to all the stupid shit Jayce can do later, but first we still need to get through his hammer time stance. His hammer stance Q is called To the Skies, and it's a point and click dash that makes Jayce dunk the enemy, damaging and slowing them, and everybody around them in a small AoE. Yeah, that's pretty much it. It isn't a terribly complicated ability. His W is hey look at my obligatory small magic damage dot, called Lightning Field. And believe me, the name does it no justice. It is a pitiful damage over time that at max rank does 100 magic damage per second for 5 seconds in an area around you, and you will never probably use it except for the passive part that's actually semi-useful. And that is that your auto attacks in hammer stance restore mana. It's a very small amount, but anytime you get a break in lane, if you push your opponent out of lane, it is very useful to get your mana back. It's definitely more useful than the active. Holy shit. And his last ability is E, Thundering Blown, or also known as Personal Space, bitch. It's a targeted ability that swings his hammer, knocking back the target and dealing a metric fuck ton of damage to them. And I'm not joking, I don't usually go in detail about the numbers, but it does 20% of their fucking max HP plus 100% bonus AD in magic damage. What the actual fuck? Early game this ability is underwhelming because at level 1 it does 8% and enemies don't actually have a health pool that could get chunked. But holy shit, late game. A 5000 HP Mundo would get hit for 1000 damage plus your bonus AD magic damage instantly. I mean, what the fuck is this? Now that we've actually finished talking about his abilities, let's see how to actually do things in-game with him. Let's start from the beginning. In the early game, you are a bully, but a safe bully. I know this kinda contradicts itself, but that's just how he plays. You will usually just farm with ranged form up to the point where you can use your EQ combo to hit them and then immediately swap to hammer form and then Q auto attack and E them, which is in most cases an extremely free trade. Rinse and repeat this until your lane is won. Worst case scenario, you are against somebody who has really high sustain or is like really long range, so you can't fight them. In that case, like the best thing you can do is just stay in lane, farm, don't miss CS, because your power spike is disgusting, and you can still transition to mid game as a powerhouse. No. So when mid game rolls around, you will either just stay in lane if you want it hard and split push to your heart's content because you can probably 2v1 at this point, or you can go with your team to contest objectives and get towers and things, which is also a really good idea because your power spike is at its highest point when you have your first or 1.5 items. At that point, your EQ combo will outright destroy any squishy that tries to get near you, and you can just walk through towers. And you should usually be at least even with your top laner, unless you outright fucking face tank his tower in the laning phase. So when really late game rolls around, you will need to play a bit safer and get at least one defensive item like a Guardian Angel, because you will explode anytime someone as much as looks at you wrong. At this point, you will mostly be just poking with your EQ combo, following up on your allies' initiation with your hammer stance, because you should almost never initiate first unless you know that they will die the moment you hit your Q in hammer stance. Or you have a Guardian Angel and you're trying to force an engage because your team are cowards. And you just repeat this entire process until you either win, lose because you fucked up somewhere, or one of your team gets caught out trying to ward the Baron that died 2 minutes ago. That happens too much, honestly. Fuck my life. As for the item build, it should look like something like this. I usually always start Doran's Blade and 1 pot versus everyone. It is good sustain, it helps you farm, and it's the best item I could see. Corrupting Potion you don't really need, just start a Doran's Blade. Versus if you're against a mage, you will almost always want to build a Veil of Night first, starting with Serrated Dirk. If you're versus an AD, but a squishy AD, not a tank like Tryndamere or I don't know who else, anybody, you get Serrated Dirk into Ghost Blade. Versus a tank or somebody who you know will build armor, you will build a Serrated Dirk first, and I point this out, always get this first. It's a really nice item to get a small power spike that helps you win lane. And then versus a tank, build a Black Cleaver. After your first item, if it's a Veil of Night or a Ghost Blade, you can usually farm up to a Ghost, not a Ghost Blade, to a BF Sword, and then you check what you need for their team. If you're fighting a tank, you get a Black Cleaver into Ghost Blade, and then you check what you need to fight their team. If they are a really heavy AP team, build Veil of Night if you didn't, get Merc Boots and possibly a QSS into Mercurial because usually a heavy AP team consists of a lot of CC. If they have a normal balanced team that is like a tank, an AD, an AP and the like, your build should look something like this in the end. Black Cleaver into Ghost Blade, into Dusk Blade, into Veil of Night, into Guardian Angel. And between the first and second item, or second and third item, get boots. Usually Ionians, because the cooldown reduction is very useful, or Mercurials if they have a lot of CC. And if they have a balanced team but a fuck ton of CC, you can swap one of these items for a Mercurial. You choose which one. Now for the runes. The runes I use are probably not the best, but they're ones I like using. So they're made for me. Usually you would want more cooldown reduction early game in your runes, but I like these. So the ones I use are AD Quints and Marks, Armor Seals, and Magic Resist Glyphs. And it's a pretty simple rune page, but I encourage you to test different things. Find a pro player, see his runes, but don't immediately take his runes. Take something that you usually use and then slowly mold the rune page to something you would use. I don't like giving outright use these runes, these are the best, because people's playstyles differ even on the same champion. For instance, I do not need early cooldown reduction because I don't play overly aggressive and I usually have all my cooldowns when I need them. Somebody likes playing Jayce like completely in your face and then he needs the lower cooldown of his dunk, of his Q and stuff. So yeah, these are my runes, but you should usually use runes that fit your playstyle, not a set rune page that somebody gives you. And these are my masteries, 12, 18, 0, going into Thunderlords. You can honestly get a lot of different things, and probably 0, 18, 12 is smarter with Insight, but I like this because it gives me a lot of damage early with Poke, with Fresh Blood, with the first basic attack, with Green Father's Gift because I like stepping into bush and attacking. And Thunderlord is just really good. It's like helps because my playstyle is more combo oriented and bursty. It really helps. But going 0, 18, 12 with Thunderlords or with Storm Raiders or going 18, 12, 0 with Fervor of Battle or Deathfire Touch are all very viable builds. And you should, after playing a few games with Jayce, see how you play. If you play with prolonged trades, you should probably go Fervor of Battle. If you think that Thunderlord's Decay doesn't give you enough damage, the Deathfire Touch is more useful later when you are only poking with your EQ combo, but Thunderlords helps you win laning phase, so you should see what you need more. And here are a few of my clips of Jayce being Jayce and completely demolishing people, because honestly the moment you learn how to get out of his laning phase properly, you will do this effectively every game versus anyone. Everyone, thank you so much for watching my video. If you liked it, click the like button, it helps small channels like mine a ton. And click the subscribe button as I'll have more content coming out in the following weeks. See you next time.